Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I am Dr. Nicole Steele, the confidence coach, here today with another cup of confidence to warm your soul. Many of you may be aware that it's been a couple of weeks since I have done a live. I was trying to be consistent and I'm back on track. I'm going to try and continue to be consistent. But to be very honest with you, the last 3 weeks or so have been a beast for me and for many of those that I love. There have been numerous storms raging. We've had a storm within our Diamond in the Rough family, as well as many of those in my extended family have experienced loss of loved ones over the last several weeks, which has been totally devastating. We have the storms of racial injustice and racism just brewing in society. I mean, this week alone in Philadelphia, another African American man was killed in the streets, and so you've got unrest in the streets. And then, of course, we're just a few days away. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 days away from a storm that's raging, which is this contentious political race that's going on. And so I voted. I hope you voted. If you are listening and you have not been to the polls to vote and to allow your voice to be heard, what are you waiting on? You need to get out there because your vote and your voice does matter. But needless to say, there's been a lot. And so over the past 3 weeks, though I've wanted to jump on here, the reality is I learned when I was a little girl, when storms are raging, sometimes you need to just sit down somewhere. You know, I don't know about you all, but my grandmothers on both sides, they were old school. So if we happened to be watching television or playing or doing something, doing the most, and there was a storm, they would say, cut that TV off and sit down, be quiet, sit down. Wait, the storm is coming. And I never really understood that. It's like, what is us being quiet going to do? But, you know, we would listen and obey. But now as an adult, I have taken that same concept into life in general, because the reality is storms of life may come and they will go. And sometimes it is important to just sit still. You know, while we can't control storms, sometimes we can't predict the storms, but we can always rest assured that we're not alone in the storm. So last night, I'm here in Atlanta, and I don't know where you are listening and tuning in, or when you're listening and tuning into this live, but it was really interesting. Yesterday afternoon, the local school system sent out a notification via email and was blowing up people's phones. And they announced that in school learning, now my daughter is still doing the virtual, but there are a lot of kids who are going to brick and mortar school now. And they said that there was that all classes in person had been canceled in preparation for the storm Zeta that was coming up, you know, from the southeast. And I don't know about you, but I've lost track of all of the hurricanes and tropical storms, because it seems like they just keep coming back to back to back to back. If people don't think that there is not something going on with our climate and our world, all you got to do is open your eyes. But anyway, so when I got this notification from the school, I thought, that's strange. Not that we're seeing another storm, but that all the way up here in Atlanta, Georgia, they would be taking precautions as far as, you know, canceling school. So anyway, fast forward to 4 o'clock this morning when his sister was sleeping real good, until those storms came raging on through here in my neighborhood, and the wind, the howling wind and the rain. And I mean, it was something. It was something. It woke me up. It woke my baby girl up. My youngest daughter was like, Mom, how strong are our windows? She's all of a sudden, she's concerned about, is our house safe? At one point we got up and we, checked the house. We went in the basement. We had to bring our dog in, all kind of things like that. But the storm was real. And I was like, okay, so that's why they stopped school, because this is no joke. And that went on for what seemed like hours. So when I was up, because I couldn't go back to sleep, it was so interesting. God just began to download a message, which I'm here to share with you today. And he said, when it comes to storms, there are three things to remember. The first one is acknowledgement. The second is assurance. And the third is assessment. So I just want to kind of break all three of those things down for you real quick. So the first thing is acknowledging the storm. I have experienced some storms that have seemed to come out of nowhere. Storms in life, and some physical storms too. There's no warning. Didn't nobody tell nobody. And then boom, here we are having a crisis that we're having to deal with, or dealing with a storm in life. However, oftentimes there is some type of warning. There's always that knowing in your spirit that, something is happening. You can feel it on the horizon. Something ain't right. Something is happening. Something is getting ready to pop off. And what I've learned is oftentimes, even though people get that warning, whether it's a literal warning for a real tropical storm or just a spiritual storm or a personal storm, we get those warnings. And yet and still, some people just are in denial, like, nope, not happening. Nope, I'm not going to acknowledge it. Like your lack of not acknowledging it is going to prevent it from happening. So I was reminded of, it's been 20 years, maybe almost 25. My husband and I, when we were newlyweds, we had a condo. And I remember the local news was forecasting that a tornado might come through overnight. And because I had a history, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, of being in a tornado, when those notifications come, a sister has learned to take cover. So we're in this 2-bedroom condo, and we had upstairs, downstairs. And I remember gathering everything. I gathered candles. I grabbed some water. I grabbed flashlight. I grabbed my Bible, my phone at the time, all these different things, because I was like, you know what? We really need to take cover. So my husband is from California. He don't know nothing about tornadoes. So he was actually laughing at me, because here I am in this little bitty, it wasn't even a full-size bathroom. It was just one of those little bathrooms, little tiny bathrooms. Anyway, I'm in there, lowest level of the condo with all my stuff, blanket, all kind of stuff, just waiting. And I was like, look, we need to take cover. And he was like blowing me off. He was actually literally laughing at me like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. Nothing's going to happen, and so on and so forth. So I had to make a decision right there. Am I going to acknowledge the fact that we have a storm coming, or am I going to be like this brother and be in denial? So I was like, look, you take care of you. I'm going to take care of me. I'm going to be safe in this storm. So needless to say, I'm in there and I'm sitting there, and long story short, the storm comes. It comes, and it doesn't hit us directly, but it hits the neighboring, even within the same county, the neighboring cities and all this. And so it's on the news, and there are trees down, and there's lives lost, and there's all kind of destruction. And I remember after the storm passed, my husband came, and he was like, eyes all big, all nervous. Oh my God, you were right. The storm was real, and he and I, we joke about it even to this day. that, you know what, when a storm comes, you better recognize, you better take cover, you better acknowledge the fact that a storm is coming. And so that's one of the things that God dropped in my spirit. When we are able to prepare, we need to prepare. We need to prepare ourselves emotionally, mentally, spiritually, in some cases, physically, take cover. But we need to acknowledge the fact that the storms of life will come. But the second thing that we need to do is we need to be assured. So we need to rest assured that even though the storms may come and go, that we are not alone in the storm. It doesn't matter how loud the wind is howling, how big the waves are, how big the situation is. There is nothing too big for our God. We need to understand. I think about the ones in my life that have lost loved ones. In that storm, they're not alone. We're not alone. When we go through the darkest moments in time, when we're dealing with challenges in our family, with our kids, you know what? Sometimes storms push us into isolation and we feel like nobody understands this pain. Nobody understands the stress that I'm under. Nobody understands what I'm going through. But the reality is there is one who does know. And there is one who is with you and who said he would never, ever leave nor forsake you. He is your ever-present help in time of need. There is a God who loves you and cares for you and wants you to rest assured that no matter what storms may come and go, you are not alone. And last but not least, the last one. Oh, before I go there, as I was preparing for this, it made me think about in the Bible when the disciples, for those of you that read the word, you may recall that the disciples encountered a storm and they were freaking out, thinking they were going to die because the storm was that bad. And in their freak out, they started looking for Jesus because he was on the boat. And they found him in the bottom of the boat, chilling. I mean, he was asleep in the middle of a storm. And they were upset, like, dude, why are you sleeping? We about to die. They were freaking out. And what did God do? He got up like, what? And he got up and he told the storm to cease. I mean, who is that can tell a storm, settle on down now? That's the God that we serve. So even in the midst of a storm, I know some of you may be thinking, I feel like that. I feel like God is sleeping while I'm freaking out here. But guess what? God knows all, he sees all, and he is able to even command the storms of life to cease. So be assured, rest assured, God is with you and you are not alone. So the last thing I want to share is the word assessment, which again, he dropped in my spirit. And, sometimes after storms come, because again, we can't control them. They come and go. It's real. I see somebody on here that said that they lost their job. Yes, that's real. And I'm so sorry to hear that, but that's a storm. But even in the midst of that, with you losing your job and not being sure of how you're going to take care of yourself or your family, I want to encourage you today that God is with you. It may have caught you off guard, but it hasn't caught him off guard. Did he cause it? No, I'm not saying that, but he is with you. And he is Jehovah Jireh. He might have used your job as a source of income and support, but he is the source. He is the source. And so I encourage you today to look towards him. Allow him to be the lifter of your head and know that he has not brought you this far to leave you here. All right. So when it comes to assessment, I think about when storms come, sometimes there is damage that is done, real damage. I told you all early when I was talking about the storm my husband and I were in, and he didn't want to take cover. But the reason why anytime there is a notification of a tornado or something, I take cover is because when I was young in my hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan, I remember we had the sirens that would go off. So the tornado sirens would go off and they would blare, and that would be the notification. You need to take cover. So one day that happened, and my mother and I just casually, okay, let's go down in the basement. We thought maybe it was something that would just blow over. Little did we know it was a full-fledged tornado. So we sat there together and we were safe. But when all was said and done and the storm had passed, we came out of our basement onto our front porch and were shocked at what we saw, because our neighborhood, not our home. Now, we had little damage. We had shingles. We had a shed that was thrown away. We had a huge tree that had been there all my life as a child that had been uprooted from the roots, and it was just a big hole. So the tornado snatched that out. But more importantly, neighbors that were just a few yards down were totally devastated. I mean, their houses were wiped out completely, like to the slab. And fortunately, nobody lost their life in those storms. But that was eye-opening for me, because I was like, wow, this storm just came up in here and just hopped and bounced and created total devastation all around. So just like in that storm, we had to come up from out of the basement and we had to look around and assess the damage. In life, when storms come, again, as they will, sometimes there is some damage that takes place. Sometimes there's damage in relationships. Sometimes there's emotional damage and residue and baggage and real stuff that we bring from the storm. But when it comes to assessment, it's important for us to assess the needs and make the necessary repairs. So yeah, I'm talking physical here. You gotta fix the roof sometimes. You gotta, call the insurance and have things assessed. But when it comes to our personal storms, when I talk about repair and assessment, sometimes during a storm, you have to muster up the courage to use your voice and to say, you know what? I'm not okay, or I'm shaken, or I'm sad. You need to be willing to give voice to whatever it is that you're feeling relating to the storm. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm afraid, whatever that is. And then you also need to use your voice to ask for help, because you don't have to suffer in silence. I told you God is with you, but also there are people around you. There are resources around you. So using your voice and asking for help is part of the assessment process. Don't sit in denial. Again, giving voice to how you're feeling. Don't just stuff it down. I'm good. Yep. I just got to get it together. No, storms cause real feelings. And so giving yourself permission to walk through those feelings on days when you need a moment, days when you just need a little time to yourself, or you need to rest and regroup, whatever that looks like, it's okay. That's part of the repair process. Sometimes you need to seek therapy and counseling. If you listen to these Cups of Confidence or hang out with me anywhere, I am a big supporter of counseling and therapy, because there are some things that you are not equipped to unpack. And so that's what counselors are for. I have a counselor. My family has counselors, and I have counselors close and all around me, and I encourage people to find a counselor. So sometimes that's what repair looks like. Dr. D, my partner in purpose, and I were talking last night with somebody. I'm sorry, I had this hair in my mouth. Sorry about that. But we were talking about the importance of having a healing plan. I'd never heard that term until she brought it to my attention, but a true healing plan. So, as you go through, part of that repair after a storm is figuring out, how do I need to heal? That may be, again, therapy and counseling. It may be yoga. It may be meditation. It may be getting out and getting some kind of active physical regimen. It may be bringing your family together. It may be letting some people go. All kinds of things could be part of your healing plan. So again, when you are going through the storms of life, do not suffer in silence. Assess the situation and ask for the help that you need. So, I told you that just a few hours ago, 4 something in the morning, a storm rolled through here in Atlanta, GA, and there was lots of devastation. Some of my girlfriends have no power, even now. But as I look out my window right now, right here where I stand, guess what? There's a blue sky. The sun is peeking through right now. So much so that after I get off this live, I'm going to get my girls and my family, and we're going to go take a quick walk at the park. So what does that tell us? That tells us that those storms may come and go. The sun will always come out again. You know, the way they say joy comes in the morning, the sun is shining right now outside my window. I would turn the camera, but I don't want to mess up nothing. So I just want to encourage you today that if you are facing real storms of life, again, remember that you are not alone. Acknowledge the storm. Be assured that God is with you through the storm. And as you come through the storm, assess the needs that you have on the other side. All right. So thanks again. I am Dr. Nicole Steele, and as always, it's been real. I do invite you, if this has blessed you, I'd love to hear from you. And of course, always, I encourage you to share it with a friend. You can also check out archives of our Cups of Confidence and other videos and messages, as well as blogs. You can find us on YouTube. My YouTube channel is The Real Nicole Steele. And you can also visit my website at therealnicolesteele.com, where you can join our confident community. Maybe you want to become a client, or maybe you just want to hang out and continue the conversation. If you have not jumped into our 10-day confidence challenge, you still have time to do so. You can do it and start your countdown today. You can visit and find out more information on the website. That's something that you can do with your daughter, with your sisters, or your friends. And until next time, you take care of yourself. All right. God bless. Bye.